All right, y'all. Here we go. What's it been? It's been a couple weeks, James. It's been a couple weeks,
yes,
right? So we thought we'd hop on here as the Warriors have a break and we're in the Eastern Conference Finals and just kind of touch base with what we've seen going on. I guess for me, I want to formally apologize to Draymond Green and Steph Curry.
Oh, wow. This is big.
Yeah.
Everyone really take notice of this.
Oh, you trying? Yeah, I don't admit I'm wrong often here, but no, I just, I was one of the pessimists that was under the impression, like, I don't know. I felt like they were both kind of on the back end of their primes. And just age-wise and just what we've seen, I didn't know they could take it to this level. Mm-hmm. So I've been humbled by their performances. James, what did you think in that series? Did you think it was going to be that easy?
To be honest, I'm an outsider, but I really did. I'm not trying to make claim that I knew what was going to happen or Negro Damas, telling the future or nothing, but I just didn't think that they had the manpower. When you simply look at the names, how the names match up, it just didn't sound like those names could beat the other names. And that was kind of a very simple way to look at it. But I kind of felt that they had no chance in heck. Maybe they would get one, possibly, but I knew after that there wasn't going to be much inroads. Because with Draymond getting the ball up the court so quickly, he's lost a lot of weight. He addressed some of the head case issues, which I can attest to having, and it's magnificent to see him channel that appropriately. I think he made the direct statement. I got to the point where I was crying more than playing basketball. And I think that since he sets the character tone for the team in many levels, once he got greater control of that and used it appropriately, he's back to being a monster, and there's not shit you could say about him. So I think that he controlled some of the stuff between the ears, and it's translating on the court. He's always been a great player, and that helped him to rise to the next step. And with Steph's ascension to the next step, there's more space. There's more room. And not that I'm not going to get into are they better with KD or better without him, but he got to a familiar position where people were saying his name and feeling his swag, and he liked it, and he drafted within it. So some external factors changed that created those opportunities. But yeah, man, they're beasts.
Yeah, that was very well put. I mean, I think as far as Steph goes, it was obvious the rhythm, right? The rhythm of having the ball in his hands, and Draymond and him in that high pick and roll, and they decide to go to it. Kerr's a wild boy, right? Because he just likes to wait till the last minute for everything. Yeah, let me roll out Damian Jones. Let me see if I can get some fourth quarter minutes out of Quinn Cook. Mm-hmm. He's low key a wild boy. I bet you he goes right to the roulette table, in the summertime, man. But but yeah, no, their chemistry in that high pick and roll of understanding what each other's gonna do, whether Draymond's gonna flip the screen or he's gonna slip, changing the angles on it, and just understanding each other, and they picked them apart. But I mean, I thought I had a little bit of a preview video. I only had there was only 48 hours between the series. Between Houston and then going into Portland after they had the Game 7. So I only had a little bit of time for a preview, but what I had brought up was, if you recall, in that Game 7 particular in Denver, remember it was CJ who was the hero for Portland. He down the stretch, he took over, and Dame, you saw him wear down throughout these playoffs. His peak was in that first round series, obviously hitting the 38-footer to win the series. Mm-hmm. But I had pointed out, it was cool. You saw his maturity kind of yielding to CJ, because CJ was the hot hand at the end of the game, and that's why they won. But I had pointed out that environment and context matters. And I thought specifically against the Warriors, against his hometown team, against the guy that he measures himself in, Steph Curry, would he be so yielding to CJ if CJ was the person to go to at the time, if he was the hotter hand or whatever it was? And not that CJ had a great series. Clay put the clamps on him as well, right? But I do think towards the end of going back to the end of that Game 4 or whatever it was, Dame was hoisting him up. Dame got worse and worse as the series progressed, right? Whether it be the separated rib, the energy in his legs. I just thought CJ should have had the ball in his hands more in that series. especially late in games. I thought that he should have had it, and I didn't think Dame wanted to yield. You know, you live by Dame, you're going to die by him. I get it. He's their best player. Him and Stotts have a bond. They extended Stotts, which is all right, fine. But I think that you could make the argument CJ's really the more talented player, but Dame is more fearless, and he has the alpha gene. Mm-hmm. So like don't get it twisted. Being more talented doesn't mean he's better overall. I'm not saying that, because there's a lot of ingredients. But I'm just saying, as far as talent, CJ's a little bigger. The handle's a little more versatile. He takes more efficient shots, can finish at the rim probably a little better, right? But Dame's fearless. Dame's the leader, right? And he's the alpha, and he has probably more belief in him. There's more intangibles. But
so it's kind of like Leonardo versus Donatello, not to take it to a dumb area, but I personally think that Donatello should have been the real leader, but Leonardo was just there. So I kind of see that with CJ and the squad.
You didn't want Michelangelo running shit?
Man, see, that's the thing. He was too wild for me, but he always had a decent attitude. He kept it fun. But right, Donatello was the most resourceful. He's the smartest dude, and the chick liked him.
Mm-hmm. But that usually doesn't fall in line, right? The guy, and that usually doesn't work out. The most talented or the smartest person usually isn't the leader.
Because
he was
nerdy.
They're not. Yeah, they're not. They don't have all the components and the ingredients. It's kind of like a natural thing. But all that being said, where do you go if you're Portland from here? CJ, pull up. Like Urkel was doing podcasts all the way through getting swept. Where you at, dog? Where you at? He doing? It is what it is. I get they have a lot of downtime between. You can only practice. You have to rehab. It's the playoffs. But he's doing pods. After every game they're getting swept. Now I want him to pull up. Where you at, Urkel? But I guess my big takeaway from that is, if you're Portland, first off, you say, are you going to trade CJ? You're going to call the Lakers for that number 4 pick? CJ is from East Ohio, and he's been linked to LeBron. He's swung from LeBron on several occasions during the Warriors finals things when he was salty. But anyway, I don't think you do that, right? I don't think the 4th pick you're not going to get equal value for CJ. The problem is you're seeing it. You're seeing there are 2 guys that need the ball, that are offensive minded, right? And I just think ultimately, if you want to be a championship contender, you'd have to move them. They're not going to do that, because what they're going to do is they're going to rationalize that they didn't have Nurkic. Mm-hmm. And Nurkic is a beast. Look, there's no doubt he would have changed the series for sure. But would they have got past the Warriors? I don't know. As far as disappointments, I think they got to take Aminu and Harkless out back behind the barn and just put them down. Like they're
send him to the glue factory.
Because I get I've watched, we've seen this team years and years now. On paper, Aminu and Harkless are perfect for Dame and CJ, because they don't need the ball in their hands. They're versatile wing defenders, kind of tweeners, if you will, hybrids. They're broke ass Draymond Greens is what they are. But here's the big difference again, because we were talking about ingredients. Because again, like Mo Harkless, Al-Farouq Aminu, their talent is comparable to Draymond's, and people are going to kill me for that. But if they really understand what I'm talking about, they'll get it. Their talent's comparable. Their heart, their energy, their communication, their intangibles, their fearlessness, they have none of that. And you saw time and time again Harkless and Aminu, because they, obviously the strategy is trap Dame, trap CJ. That's what we've seen now for years. And then they have to throw it to Aminu or Harkless, and they're just scared shitless. They can't make a play in the middle of the floor. Evan Turner, Kermit the Frog, he's limited in other areas. I don't think he's scared. He just doesn't have the talent. You know what I mean? And so, hey, man, it was a valiant run for Portland. I enjoy watching their team. Myers, Leonard, man. Maybe, don't look now, maybe they can sell high on Myers, Leonard and trade him to the Lakers for the 4th pick. They may, now I'm just talking shit. I'm taking little stabs at the Lakers.
But yeah, man, speaking of that, on the other side of the ball, Clay kind of reminds me of Malcolm Butler. And what I mean by that is he comes up with these very huge 5 second left defensive stands that are just phenomenal. Like you've seen it time and time again now. Like it's almost like Deion Sanders status, or just like he's like a lockdown cat. Like whenever that ball went out of bounds and he did had the wherewithal not to touch it, and it barely touched him, like that was just excellent effort. He went straight up, arms tall, no foul. And then there was another example where he stripped the ball low during the Rockets series. Even that last play where Dame had an opportunity to shoot that wild corner three.
That's just a
jumping out of
bad
bounds.
shot, right?
It really is. It was a poor shot.
And I like to just to interrupt you. Sorry, I interrupt when I want. That's what I do. But but we're a little rusty on the pod. But that's back to my point with CJ and Dame, and that's why I want CJ to pull up and speak on the sweep, because CJ can't be happy with that shot Dame took. Like, okay, fine, Dame gets the last shot. That was trash. That was no chance.
Terrible.
That was no chance. That's the shot you got. You know what I'm saying? And so at some point, it's like you may need a bigger thing. And with Clay, that's the difference is his size. Pause. Right? His size, because you know what I mean? Like, it's like you look at these other two guards and CJ, and they're obviously undersized, but just on a night-to-night basis, he usually has like 10, 15 pounds on the guy, 2 or 3 inches on the guy, right? And it's a problem. It's a problem, but he's my favorite. I've made no secret about it, because even when he does, because like that game 6 for him was actually a bad game. He took a lot of bad shots, but he hit that one step back 3 at the top to tie it. That was probably the biggest shot of the game, low key. But
you think it was Draymond's 3 or not really?
So we were up 1 when Draymond hit that, but then the flexing, my favorite meme in the last month is the Thanos Infinity Gauntlet where he puts the final stone in, but it says this is Draymond every time he hits a 3. When he's like he'll be like 1 of 15, and he's like, like when he hits one, he starts like Hulk smashing the other team's sideline. It's like, damn, this fool has no chill. But yeah, his flex after that to their bench was spectacular. But another thing have you seen that dude, Max something? He's a Instagram dude where he does impersonations. I know you've seen him, the white kid. He does impersonations of like all basketball players.
Oh, nice. Is he pretty good?
Yeah, he's good.
Because what I notice about impersonation cats is their face can even like contort to look similar too. Like it's kind of crazy. Like,
so he doesn't go for the looks. He's like a 6-foot white kid, but what he does is the mannerisms. So like the shot, the release, the walking up and down the court, the mannerisms, right? And he has it down. He's legit. He's getting a lot of acclaim. And he did Clay's. He did Steph's. Steph's is blowing up because it was like Steph does this, and he was just running around for like 10 minutes. But when he did Clay's, like real talk, Clay has the G-est mannerisms out of the stars, right? Like Steph's is a little suspect, right? He does some weird hip gyrating shit sometimes that I just
like Travis Kelce that one time.
Yeah, I could do without that stuff, honestly. But Clay is just straight G shit. Like it's the hard fist pump, the erect chest paw, but he's just, and Clay's is just G. But Clay, I was talking about it in one of my breakdowns. There's a real fine line with Clay and his shot selection, because you can make an argument that there is no such thing as a bad shot for Clay, because like he makes a lot of bad shots, but like in that game 6 he was forcing them, and I think it was in part Iguodala was out, Durant, obviously they were so undermanned. I think his mindset was like, yo, I'm just hoisting, and eventually when you need it, he hits it, and Draymond, the clutch gene, the coconuts, man. But
any word on Boogie or KD in relationship to coming back?
They keep saying that DeMarcus is closer than Durant.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I don't know what to believe with that stuff. I really don't. I know that DeMarcus looked like he was well over 300 pounds on that bench during that series, and
he gains weight real quick.
I don't blame him. Like, it was such a devastating, demoralizing injury that I don't blame him for just hitting the buffet. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know what to believe. But I will say this: I have a weird. Did you hear the Chris Broussard stuff with Durant and KD? Man, I really don't like Rich Kleiman. Rich Kleiman just seems like a cuck to me. Like he's just a, I don't like that dude. I don't care. But so here's the thing. What if KD just tells the Warriors like, "Nah, I'm good. I'm not playing."
Okay.
Right. Like
For no good reason.
well,
just 'cause
I'm just
top.
saying because the calf is the perfect injury to do so. It's like because all he has to do is say, "Oh, it hurts." You know, like with I mean, you could do that with any injury. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying it's an injury that's harder to gauge. That like with the knee, they're like there's the swelling's down. Like oh, you could tough it out, but the calf, it's so precarious. Like it's like a hamstring. You know, he could just be like it's tight, and they have to take his word for it. And it just ran through my mind like just because of his actions, man. Let's keep it a buck. The dude is he's had some hoe-like actions on the internet.
you know, he's not that faithful.
I just like the fact that he's in everybody's stuff, and I would, you know, he's probably listening to this because he's listening to everything now. I mean, now I'm getting ridiculous, but I don't think anybody can pretend to, especially Warrior fans, to like the way Durant's handling this as far as like the internet stuff. Like he's getting, I'm not going to like point out obviously the Broussard thing, but he was on other people's just random kids' Twitter, you know, just responding. And it's like, dude, just chill out. You haven't learned your lesson. And then you got Rich Kleiman going on some show just lying through his teeth. Like it just didn't sound believable. Oh, he has no idea. I don't know. And, I'm not saying he's decided. I'm just saying the way he was lying was ridiculous. But it just ran through my mind. So here's the thing is, the fear is, let's say he's ready for game one. What if they come out and lose game one in KD's return? Like,
yeah, it might be better. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you got to kind of think about how things are going and pull back for the sake of the conglomerate. You know, like it's almost like if a team's been winning, yeah, you might want to just ride with what you have. Sometimes that intermediate game where you're introducing somebody back in can be a little shaky. It's a different style of play once he's in. So I don't know. As from a coaching standpoint, how do you tell an all-time great like we're doing good? You don't.
Well, and look, and I want to be clear. Like I'm ragging on him a little bit just because I think he should have learned his lessons by now. He's like 30 years old and he's had these internet things. But like overall, I think KD at his core is a good, solid dude who really loves the game and one of the greatest. Like I want to be clear about that. I'm just saying like this extracurricular stuff, like we could all do without it, man. Just rehab and come back. And I don't and what I was bringing up is ridiculous. Like he's not going to hold himself out. Like he loves hoops too much. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that lowly of him. It had just crossed my mind. Like, is he going to wait until we lose so he comes back and he can like kind of be the hero? You know what I'm saying?
Okay, that would look good.
Right. But also one thing that I want to point out is that what Steph's doing right now, one, it's amazing. And like I said, I apologize. I didn't know he could get back to this just like that, the flip of the switch, chef in the kitchen MVP mode. But in a big part of why he's able to do this right now in the conference finals and into the finals is because of Kevin Durant. And what I mean is like Durant has carried most of the load up until this point. Now, you know, Steph had his hot streaks throughout the regular season here and there, but like the first round of the playoffs and like KD, the offense has been KD centric. And while it's not as fun to watch and it may not be as efficient and all this and that, what it's done is, and I know Steph has the finger, you know, not everybody's 100, no one's 100% at this point in the season, but his legs are charged up and you can see it. And his legs are charged up and he's able to score 37 a night and all this crazy stuff. Don't get me wrong, because he's this talented and he is the chef. But the reason he has the juice is because Durant had been carrying the team for a good part of the season. Not carrying, that's not the right word, but letting Steph chill.
Yes.
Right? Because that if there is a knock on Steph, it's the durability. It's the long haul, right? And that's what Steph understood bringing Durant in here. He was like, "Yo, like this will prolong my prime," and that's what we're seeing. All that being said, let me get this one thing out here. I think that the way this is played out, it's pretty clear that Durant is gonna leave. You know, who knows? Who knows how this is gonna end? But I think that all this happening, it's undeniable. Like the Warriors playing with joy with with force, with ball movement, right? Like it's pretty much signaling that Durant's going to leave. Like if he wasn't already. That being said, I low key want him to go to the Clippers because I want the smoke 4 times a year.
Okay.
Like how fun would that be? How fun would that be, man?
Yeah, that would be big. It's better than his other options. You think he'll be out there with Beverly and those? Yeah. Oh my lord.
That's what I'm saying. It might be nice. Like the Knicks, I truly, I don't have faith in if he goes to New York, even with Kyrie, and they draft what is it, R.J. Barrett or whatever the case may be. I don't think they have enough. I don't think it'll work. I think that it's not a good basketball situation in New York. Like they'll be in the playoffs, like they'll be good, but I don't think we'll see them come out of the East. I think they'll be, like a second round playoff caliber team, give or take. And the Clipper thing would just be fun, man. The Clipper thing would be just be fun, but I'm getting ahead of myself.
Well, you're talking about the East a little bit. I had texted you the other day. You must have been busy. But I was kind of asking jokingly, but more seriously, does anybody even care about the East right now? I know that obviously people do, but I don't know. It's been compelling basketball. What do you think? Have you been entertained with what you've seen in the East?
I think I think it's been better than it has been, right? The West has been the powerhouse for so long. I know what you mean, but it's all, it's all relative to the eye of the beholder. So, I mean, you know what I mean? If you're Toronto's going nuts, like Jurassic Park and like the East, I don't know if you consider that the East, you know what I mean? But the North. And then Milwaukee is kind of weird. That's a weird market, right? But so I'm sure the NBA would prefer Giannis was in New York or Philadelphia or whatever it is. But I think it's competitive. And I don't think the finals is going to be a cakewalk at all. I don't think it's going to be. There have been years. I think the worst finals in my memory was the first year LeBron got there with Cleveland with Mo Williams, and they were playing like a prime Spurs, and it was like, oh God.
Yeah, this is not.
Yeah, I don't know what the odds were, but I'm sure they were like Tyson fight odds. Like, So there's been some years when the Knicks were in the final. Did the Knicks make the finals? Yeah, it was against Houston, right? There were some years there where it was just really lopsided. Pacers Lakers was pretty lopsided. Tyronn Lue, I'm sure, remembers that well. But no, yeah. So let's go a little into that series. First off, I'll say this: I don't have a prediction. I'm doing my breakdowns on Patreon of this series, and I'm showing you what I see and giving you my opinions within the moment. I'm not like, oh, this is going to happen this time, but I say, look out for this, look for this. And if you're not a member of my Patreon, if you want like extensive breakdowns of this finals, you can just do it for the month. Subscribe for the month, this month of going into May and June, and get those breakdowns. Because a lot of people are hitting me on YouTube. Time for another video, Alk. How come you don't have another video, Alk? Damn, get on top of it. It's like, man, I'm on top of my shit. You ain't knowing, fool. It's a business model. I have to eat. Where's my soundboard? I'm about to hit the blah blah. But anyway, I've waffled back and forth, obviously, as the series has, Milwaukee, Toronto. I want Toronto just for the simple fact that I want to see Draymond crush Drake's spirit courtside. Like, we'll get a whole album out of it. Like
exactly right. I just nigga crying a whole bunch.
Dude, he's doing the most with his terrorist tan. He don't even look more like a brother. He just looked like a terrorist. Damn, I can't say that, can I? But oh man. I guess before I go on my rampage about what I've seen, what have you caught any of the matchup? They've been good.
Yeah, no. I've been looking at it. I mean, the Raptors bench stepped up. I think it was the trio of Serge Ibaka, Norman Powell, and Fred VanVleet. For the most part, had been the only reserves to play meaningful minutes. But I think they combined for 48 points, 19 rebounds, 11 assists. So the Raptors bench is definitely stepping up. But the question is, can they translate that on the road? Milwaukee's gone a long time not losing at the crib, and now they've lost 2 there more recently, but that's nothing. I personally think that Giannis will ascend. They'll make it out. But I just have my questions about Middleton, and I don't know. Lopez or whatever. I mean, is it just? I mean, that's a stupid question. Is it sustainable where they're 2-2 in the finals? But I don't know. For some reason, I have a sneaky feeling that the Raptors just might sneak one out.
Middleton need to get that Invisalign, boy. No, no all right, I'm gonna leave that alone, man. No, I'm clowning. I'm just thinking about Middleton, and he's a chuck artist, man. Middleton is an interesting player. I don't trust. One of the things I've noticed in my breakdowns is I don't trust his IQ. Bledsoe's no-showed, right? Bledsoe's in after he got that big bag, but Middleton's IQ. Like, you want to talk about talent. Like, Middleton's very talented. That's why he's an all-star. But some of the things he does and some of the shots he takes some Clay-like shots. The only difference is he doesn't get hot quite like Clay, and he just ain't Clay. But I guess my question is, I don't question Giannis's heart or his competitiveness. I think that that's an elite trait from him, his competitiveness and his heart. What I question is his experience. And mainly his experience pacing himself through a 7-game series in the conference finals, both physically and emotionally, right? Because I just don't. That's where I see, just looking at the look of his face at the end of that game 4, and he just seems, the way he plays, he uses such emotion and such physicality as this series turns into like a war of attrition. That's what concerns me about Milwaukee. And then obviously I think the main story is, like you brought up, the role players. Which team's role players are going to show up on the road? Another problem I see for Milwaukee is, I talked about this early in the year, is their drop coverage and their pick and rolls, right? And you saw it when they played Houston. It was effective against Harden, and so they dropped their bigs: Lopez, Mirotic, Ilyasova. All of them, when they're in a pick and roll action, right, they drop back to the free throw line and contest and have their guards fight over. And what you saw, Toronto, Lowry in particular, is getting really comfortable seeing that drop, whether he just gets downhill super aggressive, or they have two bigs that like the pick and pop. You saw Serge finally emerge, and Marc Gasol, the pick and pop, and that drop coverage, it don't work when the big's just going to pop and slide for a jump shot. And so I think that's a systematic problem that Toronto's starting to exploit. And you saw it in the Portland series. Stotts did some adjusting, but ultimately at this point in the season, if you're still playing, you're not going to change your scheme up. Like, if that's been your identity this whole year, they're not going to change it up. And so I think Serge Ibaka is the X factor. I really do.
How's his head? I know he had that big ass gash there from a while ago. He's finally got that little Band-Aid off. He was looking crazy. Again, I keep bringing up this word talent, right? Because there's so much talent there, but he's missing some of the juice at this point in his career. But he had the juice in that game 4, and I just think that their best defensive, when you have Kawhi, Siakam, and Serge on the floor, that's a devastating defensive lineup. Their ability to switch, close out, and then still play with size and strength is crazy. But you're losing on the offensive end when you have Serge and Siakam in there. They're kind of like maybe shooters, so that you lose some spacing and you lose some offense, right? But if Serge is going to play like he did game 4, where he had the pick and pop going, and he's going to actually pull the trigger and play like he can, then having him out there for 30 minutes, then that's why, to me, he's the X factor in the series. Some people are discussing Kawhi's health, or a little bit about he may have tweaked something, seeing if he can get back to full health in game 5. He'd be like he'd shown some limping or whatever it may be, or wincing, but hopefully he can overcome them.
That to me is an interesting story here. That I'm glad that you brought that up, because, well, we had to bring it up. It's a main storyline. But remember on one of our first pods, when we were dealing with the Kawhi issue, this was when he was still in San Antonio, and I had proclaimed, oh, he's done. He ain't playing there. Mm-hmm. And now I'm going to butcher the name of this, but it's like tendinopathy or something like that. But anyway, the problem that was in his leg was like a tendinitis in the quad that turned into tendinopathy or whatever. I'm butchering that. But what it is it becomes chronic, and it becomes like a real problem within the muscle, and it breaks down. And I would be a little spooked that that's what's happening, because it looks like it's both legs, and he's almost acting as if it's cramping, right? He's not. It doesn't look like a normal injury. You know, when a guy's like at the knee or the ankle, the way he's moving like he's chafing. And so what I wanted to bring up was Toronto, the team, the front office, the organization is in a very weird position with Kawhi, because you think, all right, in order to guarantee, well, there's no guarantees, but if you want the highest possibility of retaining Kawhi, we want to win the championship, right? So you want to roll him out there, and regardless of if he can play. But at the same time, they also know, hey, Kawhi might just leave no matter what. So what do we care about his long-term health?
Just use him up.
Right. And so I think there's like this predicament. And then Kawhi is also to blame, much like we saw, I think, with San Antonio, and what they were alluding to is Kawhi, because when it happened, what struck me that was super weird was when it happened, was it game 3, I think? It was game 3. The side, you know how TNT and whatever ESPN, they'll quickly, within like 10 minutes, the sideline reporters like, so-and-so has a strained groin. So-and-so is, they checked it out. They took him back. They're taping it up, whatever it is. You get a report within like 15 minutes. And they had nothing to report. They were like, Toronto says Kawhi's fine and Kawhi says Kawhi's fine.
Okay.
And, you know what I mean? And so there's no diagnosis. They're not telling us that all we've got is Kawhi is limited. And so is Kawhi's lack of communication, again, if it's that problem with that chronic problem with his quads, he could be risking his career right now. I'm not to scare everybody. I'm just saying this is what's running through my mind. It seems very weird. And then you get Kawhi, who's not communicating what's wrong. And you've got Toronto with interesting agendas. Obviously, like, I'm not trying to say they're being malicious. Like, they don't want anybody to be long-term hurt. But I'm just saying it's kind of an all or nothing season for Toronto, where let's say Kawhi was traded there at the beginning of the year and he signed a big bag deal within the trade. 5 years, supermax, whatever he could get, right? Would they be rolling him out like this? Or would they be more cautious with it? I don't know. It's hard to say, because at this point, this is what you play for. You know what I mean?
No, that's a good point.
But I guess the last thing I want to ask is Kawhi asexual?
He's on that. Oh man, I could give you some stories about that working as a counselor. It's amazing, the concept of asexuality.
I feel like if Kawhi were to stumble upon Pornhub, he would be into like some like tentacle shit. Something savage here. This ain't for the sponsors.
Yeah, dude. There's some very weird paraphilias that are out there. And I've met some people who are definitely into some stuff that you wouldn't really think about. Like, I didn't know that people are attracted to people's belly buttons, and there's a whole litany of weird stuff that you can watch and do. It's just really weird.
Shout out to Strange Addiction. I was bored. There was no basketball on last night, man. So, I was compromising with the wifey, and we go through the Hulu. And I'm like, yo, what is this? And his couple, so this woman's like, I was having problems with my liver and kidneys. And so I started giving myself coffee enemas. And now I'm up to 4 a day. And I was like, oh, shit. No, but listen to this. Listen to this. So then they interview the husband. And he's like, well, when she told me, I was very worried about her. And I just didn't know what to think. But then when I tried it, I realized the sensation of it, and now I do 4 or 5 a day. And I was like, oh shit. No. And so these fools are on their side in the bathroom giving themselves coffee, and they fight over who gets the first coffee enema, like in the morning, and their kids are like off to school, bro.
This sounds like some crack problems, like The Last Hit. Like this.
No,
this is
and
miserable.
I think it is, because I didn't fully understand like I understand it's like to cleanse or whatever, but then she was talking about how it's like straight to the bloodstream, the caffeine. I'm like,
yeah, that's dangerous shit. Like suppositories. Like we always joke about cats keistering in jail or whatever, but like, yeah, that's the vagus nerve. Basically is a very powerful nerve, and it ends right at the pelvic floor. And if you do take suppositories and all that shit, yeah, it hits you real hard. So yeah, I get fucked up off coffee. I can only imagine just a huge stimulant in your butt. Like,
Super
Way too
pause.
much.
But yeah, so I was like, damn. And then the next, I had to turn it off though, because the next chick was eating hairballs off her cat. I was like, I can't watch this, bro. This shit was too grisly. The exploitation of TLC, man. They
Right?
own some savage shit. But
God dang.
we'll move from one, circus show to another in the Lakers. I feel like we gotta. We went from coffee suppositories to the Lakers and
That's an
Magic.
accurate transition. I liked how Bomani was talking about the man's suits, how it felt like he was rolling around in like just a pillow of
The
satin.
1,000 count Egyptian thread.
Yeah, you feel me? I can see. He said Magic's real good at being rich, which is a very funny concept. But yeah, it was interesting. Also, the way that Stephen A. responded to it as well. I think he went a little bit far, but I am kind of glad that he stood up for Magic because I don't want to make this a race thing or whatever it may be, but obviously Magic is somewhat a minority within leadership, and you don't see a lot of black men represented in that forum. And a lot of times when someone is fired or let go, they're vilified for not being able to do the job or having the skill set to achieve. And that's been a common narrative about black men in business just for a number of years. So I like that Stephen A. and Bomani kind of not necessarily sided with him, but presented a different outlook. That the man's not lazy. He's not incompetent. He's not incapable. Sure, he's somewhat untrustworthy, which has been proven. But whenever you question his work ethic and his ability, that's a quick go-to. And they were just trying to bring up some evidence that maybe was more so the moving parts that were the challenge. Granted, Magic has his own challenges, but let's be 100 about this. If you don't feel safe at your workplace and you can't get the people in that you want to get in, and things aren't looking the way you want them to and you're handcuffed, people generally leave. And especially if somebody's been talking shit to you and you don't really like them anyway, that's a quick way to leave. So I think it was the easiest way to say things was, oh, Magic, he's lazy, or he didn't know what he was doing, or he's non-committal. But there were some other moving parts as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was, what's the saying? There's his side, their side, and then the truth somewhere in between.
Mm-hmm.
Palenka definitely looks like someone who like sexually harasses his secretary. Right? Like he looks like a real piece of shit. He looks like the real version of Californication. Like, so I don't know.
I'm not taking sides. I'm just saying like that narrative is usually there. So I just found it interesting that Bomani and Stephen A., who were fellow colleagues, in a different forum, just tried to show some support. That's it.
Right. No, I hear you. And I think, I think Magic was not doing a good job, and I think Palenka is a snake bastard. I think it's both.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? And but I do have one. I don't like when. How do I put this properly? So like this is the perfect example of it. Like where Stephen A. or Bomani, it's like, right, they felt obligated to support a brother in power, perhaps, when maybe they do know he is wrong. Because like how it played out was he Magic has some fault. He's not innocent. And so sometimes I think we get behind somebody because of like the big picture. When like in a vacuum, it was like, Matt, I don't know, man, because what he did is he's saying, oh, the Lakers, we this, we that. He just firebombed their shit. Like they're like good. I think they'll be lucky to end up with like Kemba Walker or like maybe Jimmy Butler, And so Magic, he kind of has this thing where it like he acts kind of innocent. But then like the timing of all this, I know they kept saying that he had this interview planned, but like the day they announced Vogel, the timing of everything, how he did it before a game, like which way is it? Is he just oblivious or is he a real sneaky bastard?
It's probably both.
Yeah.
Well, no, you're right. It's probably the second. Like, so yeah, I'm gonna come up off of that. He got the support, and that only lasts for a little bit. But 10, 15 minutes later, people are looking back at your rap sheet, and it hasn't been great. Yeah, you could say that he got LeBron on some levels, but the other parts of the plan have fallen apart. And with the Vogel hire, I'm not very impressed. But
yeah,
we'll
that's gonna be it's a mess. And don't get me wrong, like Magic, he needs like he is inspirational overall. What he's been through, the player, the person. I'm just treating this in a vacuum of like I don't think like just if you look at the moves and you look at the things and the way this is handled, I don't think you can really defend him. But I mean he got snaked. So there's two things. Overall, I understand why, and a lot you have to remember Bomani, and he said it himself. Bomani, Stephen A, they grew up idolizing Magic.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So there's a little bit of that through that lens. But yeah, Pelinka, I just got the popcorn out for the offseason and for what's going to go down with these Lakers, man, because like I said, I don't see the rumor is that they were going to refuse to trade AD there. The fourth pick, whoop-de-doo. It's a 3-person draft. I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. I guess before we wrap this up, who do you think's going to come out of the East? Who would you like to see comes out of the East? And then I think your prediction actually is stronger than mine because I'm too clouded. I have too many personal agendas. I'm too deep in the woods.
Well, if you had to ask me if I was a betting man, I think that it's just going to go Toronto's way somehow. I've seen some luck mixed with the right timing, and I think it'll carry them over the top. So I'm not talking about metrics. I'm not talking about players. I'm looking into the crystal ball and just sorting shells and wind. So some real mystical type shit. But I just think off history and timing, I think for some reason Toronto pulls it out and it gives Giannis what he needs to truthfully achieve and take it to the next level from here forward and really ascend to his rightful place. And it's kind of weird. Like, I just think that it's not Giannis's time just yet. And I know that sounds fucked up, but I think that it's more of a human development thing, and this is going to make him stronger. So I just look at the two leaders of the teams, Kawhi and Giannis, and I think that Kawhi's put in a little bit more work, and he's a bit more deserving to advance. And that might sound weird to some people, but that's how I'm making that choice.
I like that. I think you're definitely onto something as far as Lowry, Gasol, Kawhi, Danny Green. Like
they've been working at it, man. And not that.
Well, no, just as this looks like it's going to go 7, right? It kind of looks like it's going to go that way. And in a game 7, Milwaukee, the odds of a home team in game 7 are super high, but all the veteran experience is on Toronto's side. I think the 3-point shooting is going to be really what dictates it. Is Mirotic going to have a game where he hits 6 or Lopez hits 5 or 6 threes, or is Gasol and Lowry, they're so streaky. At some point here, Danny Green is going to hit like 4 or 5 threes. But I can't call it. I want Toronto for various reasons. I think that the Kawhi, I hope Kawhi can last. Like, does Toronto win in 7 and Kawhi is just done, and then the Warriors just body bag him? Like, that's a strong possibility. And hey, I ain't gonna be complaining too much. But at the same time, you want a little resistance, right? You want a little fight. But I like that. And I think there is something to be said about what you said about Giannis is if you look at the history of MVPs and great players, there's phases of it, right? They don't just get it all at once.
Yeah, it just brings you back to the, well, it's not a direct comparison, but Jordan and the Pistons back in the day, he had to grind. He had to finally overcome. And now that LeBron's been moved from there and it's actually a more even playing field on some levels, I just think for his development and for him to learn, like you're saying, how to pace himself and to do those things you were discussing, I think that is more taught through a loss than a win. And that sounds maybe weird, but that might be exactly what is needed for him to start, getting some real moves and perfecting a jumper and distributing more frequently. Well, so I don't know.
The free throw thing is an issue too. I guarantee you that's because one, you can't take him off the floor at the end of a game. But are we going to see a hack of Giannis? He's airballing free throws.
Okay. You don't deserve to win if you're airballing.
And I did a breakdown. I did a slowdown of his form, and really, I understand his arms are super long, but he doesn't tuck his elbow. So like his shot pocket to me is much too far away from his body because his elbow's flared, and then it becomes this weird flick at the end of his shot. But I will agree with what you said is because when I talked about the pacing, especially emotionally and physically, I don't. When it comes to this game seven, which it looks like we're headed towards, and he doesn't have as much as he had left, or he wishes he had a little more left in the tank. That's the only time he's going to realize that he has to pace himself. At this point, I don't think he's ever realized. He just thinks he can keep going. He hasn't felt that fatigue at that point yet. And so, like you said, the only way to learn it is to feel it, and perhaps a loss. But yeah, man, I will hit a breakdown of a series preview when this Eastern Conference is decided, headed into the finals. If you want breakdowns of all these games and the finals, you know where to find it at the Patreon. James, I appreciate you, brother.
All right, then, man. I'll talk to you later on.
All right, man.
So long as like